Let's freaking go. Crowdfunding roundup. What do you need to know this week? What's new? What's going on? And a bunch of six-figure digit projects that all of a sudden went live at the very tail end of October. As we get into a little bit of a lull of November, there's still some notable projects that we'll talk about. Somehow the news video escaped me from this last week, and we'll have a little bit of everything else to go along with it. With a few new announcements, because that news video got delayed, we get to throw a few extra things in there that you may or may not have known about as well. Let's freaking go. Altered Seeds of Unity, the most crowdfunded TCG in history. Now, you may be going, okay, yeah, I remember this crowdfunding project. This thing raised over $6 million on Kickstarter. This was massive. This was amazing. Did you know that this is the 5th set already? Which means the other 3 between all of these just went straight to retail. So it begs the question to me immediately is, why are you coming back to crowdfunding? Has it been that successful, or are you coming back because it's a free loan and or it hasn't been that successful? The other thing that I have to point out here at the beginning, I got dragged through a disparaging set of things previously when I said and dared to question Gamefound's track record of the Kickstarter retreads, i.e., tongue-in-cheek aside, the games that start over on Kickstarter and go to Gamefound. So this one has a 1/10 of what the previous campaigns did. What do you need to know about Altered? Well, it's still Altered. New keywords, new expansions, new content, new distribution model. That also makes me worry that if you have to do a new distribution model now, are you not doing as well comparatively to the big mainstays that were out there in the first place? I don't know, but it makes you at least think this through and wonder. Gameplay-wise, it is different in terms of what it's going up against in the similar TCG model. It talks very frankly at the top of this, which I like, the new mechanics that are going to be reflected in this set in terms of the mana seeds, gifts, and in contact that you see here. If you're not familiar with this TCG model, let's talk about this though, because this game is played by getting your 2 characters into the middle of the board, but you have to have a characteristic by the end of your turn that's higher than your opponent's through the cards laid, cards played, as you start off with a hand of 6 cards and you lay down 3 of them as resources, and you keep 3 of them to utilize. Your higher statistics, you get to move closer to the middle. Rinse and repeat. Obviously, it's a little bit more than that as you cycle through the characters and the cards and the abilities. But that's something that's been out here now for, I don't know what, like almost 2 years. Rules are out there, plenty of video content. It's been available through Asmodee and other channels for quite some time. But again, I guess I wonder, TCG model. Are people just saturated with TCG model? And speaking of TCG model, screw you to all you Pokemon scalpers out there that don't allow my kids to actually get packs to open. Middle finger to y'all. Escape the Dark Castle, 2nd edition with Escape the Dark Forest. Another in their line of Escape these, because we also did Escape the Last of Us, which was the previous one that they talk about down here in a minute. And the previous game is going to be different than this new edition in the sense that not only are they giving us new mechanics with the forest in terms of the keywords like fear and darkness, but they are incorporating a lot of the expansion content into the 2nd edition core model of this sort of pseudo-narrative, choose your own adventure style, dice-driven with mitigation escape game, because you're prisoners who are caught. And they're saying that this is also going to be more roguelite, so you can get a little bit more of that sense of progression. Promo pack, free miniature, and a little bit of a discount if you're a previous backer. And it's not as expensive as I was expecting. You are the prisoners escaping the traps, horrors, and challenges that are represented here. It gives you a little bit of Escape the Forest as well, and the how you play. So you get this deck of cards, 1, 2s, and 3s, and you form this deck of basically your chapters. You slowly reveal them. You have characteristics that are going to be quested upon and basically skill checking. And as you turn these chapter cards, whoever does that gets fear and then has to deal with the consequences of these event cards, which are typically going to be bad, especially potentially for the person who is doing the flipping. But you're going to find items to mitigate, combat, which is going to be role dependent to defeat the monster based on the number of players that you might need to do. So a 2-player game would need 2 of each of these symbols. So you would double this up if that makes sense down there, and you have to roll those dice to match them, or you lose out. Your weapons give you additional dice rolls or additional, well, cross-offs, if you will, and you have to block it in addition if you don't kill them. But the combination of these 2 games is only £70 right now, essentially, which is a lot less because I feel like the previous Escape from the Last of Us situation was a lot more expensive. So I was surprised pleasantly by this one in the first place. A bunch of other paraphernalia that you can get as well. Paraphernalia, it makes it sound like it's anyway. That's all I've got, and so we're just gonna skip on to the next game. This is a nice iteration. I guess I would make the argument or the conundrum question of if you have 1 or 2 of these previous ones. I mean, I'm not sure I would get in at this point. It doesn't look like it has an upgrade either if you have a first edition content, and so this might be a good place to get in, but if you're trying to get back in, I don't know. Threshold, again, $400,000, and seemingly the best of the sandbox-esque roguelike games that we have seen now, 4 come out in the last week and a half to 2 weeks. And this is Open Owl Studios, so you're going to know them obviously from Mythwind. I love this art, by the way, but if you blow up this image right here, let's talk about this for a second. It's like this guy's looking forward, this guy's looking to the right, this person's also pointing left and looking to the right, and this person's sort of looking middle to the right as well. Like the eyes on this one need to be redone. Anyway, again, the things you notice when you're doing these pages: 1 to 4 players, hex-based combat, upgrade, and AI system in a easily put awayable, because that's kind of what Open Owl Studios is known for. These big boxes with the storage, the upkeep, and the teardown, if you will, mimicking an MMO inspired, as they say here, with a solely almost deck-based, ability-driven gameplay. Your dice that you acquire are actually loot dice, which then you don't roll until you get back to town after adventuring, that can be used to upgrade loot as you match symbols. Ooh, interesting. A persistent, living, reactive world. Oh, speaking of those things, man, Ukrainian folks, I hope you're doing well. I am really nostalgic all of a sudden for Sankonkushnin, if you remember that game. Anyway, I look at that Board Game Geek page every once in a while and hope for an update. And you can apparently do PvP on a worldwide board. Okay, I think you're jumping the shark a little bit there for me personally, but take that for what you will. They've got a lot of stretch goals and additional content when we get down here, though, in terms of gameplay content. So that's kind of what you have to know. It takes the open world big picture here, going down in an Iridia-like sense to the minutia of the battles themselves afterwards, using your cards as a tactically driven skirmish hex-based situation. But you're going to be doing all of these things like it says: striking, blocking, casting, meleeing, and everything else in between as you gain experience, loot, and skills to grow your deck. Is that a 5 right there? Look at that. Like, what mutated that 5 to make it look like an 8 and a 5 had an ugly stepchild baby, if you will? Again, miniatures, standees. I think that standee looks much better than the miniature, personally speaking. You can actually tell who it is. It's not just a gray plastic blob on the table. 2 new heroes. I don't think these are the ones that they've added as add-ons down here. They might be, though. I can't really remember offhand. Enemies, they run you through the bad guys and how they're going to change, and it gives you the examples of the skills that you're going to be gathering with skill points and equipping gear to grant you additional weapons and skills and those things along the way, and the overworld that it gives you in terms of the 4 vast regions, and the expansion content, which gives you endgame extras, quests, enemies, and secrets. The combat, which is going to be, again, very card-driven, puzzle-like, almost Gloomhaven-esque in nature and how you want to use it, or use it to pay for another card. I'm not saying that's exactly like Gloomhaven. I'm just saying it's going to be more strategic in that way. The end game is going to give you what everybody wants afterwards to do more and view things, get more gauntlets or trials and raids. So it's almost like an Aeon Trespass Odyssey or Primal The Awakening and some of that content extra, if you will. The Last Stand expansion here, when every time I click on it right now, it's not loading, so we're going to leave that alone. and the enemy miniatures, all of the Luxified upgrades that you can see, and then all of the gameplay content that I mentioned. That's not insignificant, but none of these are actually unlocked up here. All of these are short right now. Oh, look, there, you know, it can't load it. And these are the ones that are unlocked, which again, not an insignificant amount of gameplay. So this is going to be a lot harder for me to hit to the table, something like this, but I think it looks a lot more interesting than anything apart from the journey from indie board and card games that we talked about last week. So I think it's doing something more unique. I like the aesthetic more overall, and I potentially like more of the mechanics. I'd like to see a rulebook on the page. Apparently the Tabletop Simulator mod has one on there, but it has not been shared here unless you're also on Discord. So again, I'd like to see that on the actual page itself if you have it elsewhere, but you know, apart from the solo playthroughs that you can check out, that's what we've got going on. Threshold. Joyride, Full Throttle. I had my video out earlier this week. This is the better version for if you really, really want to play this with 5 or 6. I think the 2 versus 2 team mode offers some mitigation of the chaos and the experience curve in case you suck at maneuvering your car. That allows you just to instead snipe people trying to do laps because it's, well, the first team that has one cross the end. But it is a dice-driven racing game with a steering mechanic that now adds a pivot mechanic to allow you to shift the back of your car instead of teaming on the front of your car to drive in a front wheel situation. It gives you more craziness with the addition of a portals, as well as the aforementioned 2 versus 2 versus 2 mode with some new asymmetric powers of the 6 racers, which again is a slightly better version than the base game initially, because the base game initially only had 4 racers. These are a little bit crazier and a little bit better in my opinion. But your real incentive in this case is to actually get the Deluxified tokens and the Deluxified racing miniatures, if you will. There's a bunch of other expansions that you can get with all of the previous products. And it is what it is, right? Like, this is not significantly different apart from the portals that you can teleport yourself as well as the weapons through when you shoot them, or the actual map itself, or the slight asymmetric powers and the 6-person versus 4-person, as well as the 2 versus 2 versus 2 mode with the pivot mechanic. All the extra add-ons are there if you like that. So I guess I'll give a brief mechanistic approach. Basically, you roll these dice and you get the ability to lock some of them, which means that you can use half of them before you take like the first half of your turn, and then you can use the subsequent ones later to allow additional movement. But you can only navigate one space steering unless you're in a certain gear, and the higher the gear you're in, the more initiative in terms of how soon you go. But it also means you have to roll that many dice, which may also run you into things and cause a lot of trouble in the first place. There are the aforementioned portals as well, and all of the stuff that I already showed you in terms of the new stuff. The new asymmetric abilities, the deluxe car wash minis, the deluxe upgrade kit, turbo, a bunch of other people's videos. I wonder if mine's on here. But that's it, right? Like the Joyride series, other people like it. Other people like it a lot. So get them to talk about it to you because they're smarter than I am, as evidenced by their channels versus mine. So there you go. That's what we've got going on. And that is the new Joyride. Give it a look-see from Rebellion. I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what to make of Vampire Survivors. The Game Boy Geek is the only one that has a video, has even tried this game out. There's no rule book, and Gray Fox has a very hit or miss track record for me, personally speaking. So when I see this IP, I think I'm really intrigued. And then I also see that this is by Emerson Matsuuchi, which, design pedigree, I give a lot of kudos to. And so I'm willing to put a little bit of bank in the book for this one in general. But I just can't tell. Basically, what you have is these asymmetric characters with weapon options that are basically almost a bullet-like configuration of removing enemies or dealing damage in a tile-like configuration around you that you can either play as instants or permanent upgrades depending on how you play them. But you're going to be eliminating these enemies as you push them towards the center, basically to end up killing yourself, unlocking more as well as you go on. And there's only one pledge level. It's just the $59 pledge level for the deluxe edition. And I don't mind the standees. I don't mind the artwork. I think if you have 164 different weapons in terms of, just availability with all being different, along with a few evolution cards and unlocks to go along with it, I think that looks interesting. I think this could be something highly underrated. And I don't care about stretch goals. Time unlocks, great, whatever, don't care. Acrylic standees are larger, and there's going to be hollow foil. I guess I don't really care if the unlocks are sealed or unsealed, and it doesn't appear to be any gameplay content difference. So all it tells you, though, is basically what I said. You play them for the instant, or you play them for their persistent. When you play them, they go on your player board, you get evolutions, you activate the enemies, but again, like, I can't even tell what the differences between these enemies are. You can see that the symbols, I'm assuming this is like a move, this is an attack and move, maybe defense, I don't know. Add 4 stacks of enemies to the board, pushing and disting stacks inward, level up to spend your XP, and then redraw. And then you get to the bosses. But that's it, unless you want to watch the video. That's like a lazy page. And it doesn't tell you enough information. You obviously have a rule book out there. Why not more information? Why not a copy of more of it out there in the first place? This is calling it deck building. And so I guess technically it is, but is it really something that you want? And this is one that I think would be interesting if you could show me more, but I need more. So as the famous saying goes, please, sir, can I have some more? Obsession, Rules Compendium, Victorian Big Box, and Playmat. 3 hours to go. Holy crap, at the time of me filming this. I think I forgot to cover this one when it came out originally. There's cats and rule breakers and Compendium if you want a big spiral bound notebook of things. You want an extra playmat? Awesome. You want a big Victorian box? Even better. Punch Drunk Host? Even better. Second edition boxing? A reboxing video? If there's nothing else that excites me more, it's a reboxing and a boxing. I don't know, whatever. You know, it's Kayenta Games and Obsession, and people love, well, I can't resist it. People are obsessed with it. I'm done. Peace out. Zombie, Princess, and Haunted Mouse before I get myself in trouble with the previous 2 games. But Bezier is bringing us Spades with Powers, essentially, and another trick-taking game in the form of the Haunted Mouse here. $30 with the Haunted Mouse and the expansion, but why I'm going up to this is a $40 MSRP of Zombie Princess plus a promo, and it's 1 princess for a promo, which is not a whole lot. When the previous deluxeified edition of Your Game with Hearts that came out last year goes for like $20 retail, I have a hard time, you know, justifying getting this one for over double this price probably by the time it's arriving at my doorstep. And again, this is previously spin-off of the one I just alluded to, Rebel Princess. And I guess now these princes are coming back 28 days later. 28 days later. Oh, can't get away from the reference there, but we'll go with it. Zombie hordes. They're zombies. So it's a sequel. Classic trick-taking game, Spades. So if you're not familiar with Spades, it's just another one of those that I grew up playing. And you get the new round card that's going to give you asymmetric events or rules that are going to be how you're going to be interacting, including passing the cards potentially, bidding on how many tricks you think you're going to win, and spades being obviously the aforementioned trick trump. And then it's just a classic twist, although somebody can play a zombie prince in this case and steal it from you. Win tricks equal to your bid and score points. And so like with 6 bids in the original, if you get 7, you would get like 61 points. So I believe you would get 1 point for every over, but every under, like, it loses 10 points, I believe, is at least what it was when I played it as a kid. I probably played it wrong. You know me. Didn't win enough tricks. You can use skulls to pay for those missed bids though. I guess that's okay because you'll get them from other effects, powers, or bidding 0, and you'll also get extra points for them at the end. There you go. I'm guessing the point scoring is going to be slightly different. We can get one little zombie princess to go along with it if you really want, and somehow metal coins for almost the cost of the game. But I guess that sounds good. And I guess if you're looking at this one promo, there are 12 princesses in the base game, so it'd be 13 versus 12, which isn't a huge amount. It's still probably more than you'd like, but take that for what you will. A whole bunch of paid content here and a review of the old one. And then we get down to Haunted Mouse. So now it's all about the cheese. And what I mean by that is it's in the line of a scout type situation, only the twist on this is you're going to have bait cards in front of you that are usable for everyone else because it takes a scout-like mechanic approach in terms of not being able to rearrange your cards and being able to only use the ones that are adjacent to them in the first place. But everybody can use your bait and you can use everyone else's in order to create a better combo than the ones that have previously played. Empty both your bait and your cards in your hand and you go out first, and that's how you score extra points. Well, you either play or you pass. If you pass, you can draw extra cards, or you can even get them from other people, and then you add it anywhere you want. Rinse and repeat. Get your cheese, fill up the wheel, and win. There you go. Little mouse squishy to go along with it, and that's everything. So that is what Bezier has in store for us. So I like the light style card games. I'm not sure either for me right now, but I at least like the vibe. Next, we have Punch Bowl from the makers of Fire Towers. So if you remember those little acrylic fire tokens being spread throughout, well, you're kind of spreading throughout here, only you're getting 3 different punch bowls, each of which has 4 different sections representing the 4 different fruits that you're going to be taking. And essentially what you do on your turn is you draw from your deck of 12 3 cards. You play one, you kill one, and you, well, put one to sleep, if you will. Or you play one, rest one, and discard one, because then after you do that for all of your deck, you're going to end up with a certain number of rest cards. You reshuffle. So the game goes until all the punch bowls have been collected, or you can no longer play cards, and everyone will do this in turn order. Then you will subsequently allocate a certain number of your fruit potentially to one of the punch bowls, or potentially move other people's around. There will also be an orchard sideboard where you can also trade in for more fruit. And that's the gist of the game. At the end of everybody's turn, you then roll a die that is responsible for whether or not you put a ladle in there, those little ladles on the left-hand side. And if the ladle is already in there, then you scoop it, and whoever has the most fruit out there in the punch bowl of theirs gets the points, and they get to put it back in their little acrylic cup, and whoever has the most points or fruit in their acrylic cup, but it's really just points. You don't really need the cup. You don't really need the deluxified tokens, but they look pretty. And yes, there's like a little side thing of ice cubes and seltzers, because you can basically bet on yourself by playing a seltzer instead of a fruit if you have the option to do so. But they're worth like extra, but they're not actually counting as your fruit. So basically you're betting on yourself if you're putting those out there instead. That's the serving die we talked about. Each of those recipe cards will be next to a punch bowl telling you how it scores or is ladled or some changing dynamic that's going to give it a different thing each time. And that's it. Now you do have mini expansion, hint of poison and wild herbs, but that's the gist of the game as a whole. Completely fill your cup. Don't let your fruit rot, because if you don't have stuff played at the end of the game, you actually lose points as well. Rulebook's right there, playthroughs right there. I do wonder though, when this is looking the best at a 4-player count, how well the automa is going to work if you only have less than 4, 1, 2, or 3. Like, I could see 1 being okay. 2 and 3 would be really weird when you really realistically need almost a 4-player count. So that'd be my only concern, just as a will you like it as much? Sort of like when I was just commenting with a few people on my blog on Board Game Geek saying, can you play Raw well at 2? You can play Raw at 2 and you might like it at 2, but ultimately some of these mechanics are better at higher player counts. So just being aware of that, if nothing else. They say the solo has a bunch of levels here, and you're getting a whole bunch of deluxifications on the over deluxified game already. Whole bunch of preview content in addition, so you can see how you feel about it even further. And we skipped past the expansion content here, but the mini herbs give you a new leaf to play along with it, and then just a hint of poison, whatever that's going to do. That's it though. And what is the price point after we passed all of that? The mini expansions, $5. Standard edition, $35. Deluxified is $45, and Super Deluxe, which gets you Deluxe 5-player expansion and the mini expansion, $65. There you go. Now, next up we have Cauldron Call, which is basically the board game equivalent of Overcooked, if you're familiar with that video game. It gives me huge vibes of this, as you have 4 asymmetric chefs in a kitchen with a variable setup. You can even see it's going to have 3D terrain options to place your, well, standees on, if you will, in order to go around between the places, take the actions, prep your ingredients, meet the recipes, and avoid disaster on feeding the undead legion. Because that's exactly what I think of when I think of having to do a cooperative kitchen-based game with anthropomorphic creatures in the first place. Those two things go right hand in hand, right? Okay, and then it's a magical world, and we talk about a dragon here, and the cauldron is its own life, and it can transform the meat or the bread into good stuff. Oh, okay, but it's a real-time game, so that's really what you need to know as you're taking these actions, going around and transforming the ingredients to your heart's necessity, because I can't say satisfaction. The DIY, because you place these tiles down and they're going to have places in which you need to play the actual terrain, and so it has 3D element that you can include with the spatial strategy element is there as well. Now, apparently we're going to have hidden stories that are going to be arcane and optional adventures to discover the world's true thing, which again goes right hand in hand with a chef cooking type game, right? Deluxe, and super deluxe. So that's kind of what they got going on here as we get through the components. Let's skip down to the expansion, the over-the-wall expansion, where you can harvest pumpkins and use them in other magical dishes, but you could get a potion that turns your dish either super good or super bad. A few add-ons that you're used to. How to play, the rule book is right here, but the how to play on the page is not going to exactly tell you what you got going on, right? Finish the dish to get the next order. Do as many as you can. Get the rush done. React to events happening on the fly, and then master your unique talents to be able to use them, and placate them by placing your dish in the portal. Okay. You know how to play based off of that? And so going back to the rulebook though for a second, one round, every player gets one action. Every player has an action point, you get one action and the number of free actions available. And as you're going down, essentially, there are going to be special triggers and events going along, including wizard spells and other things like that that are going to change the dynamics of the game potentially as well. As a whole, your standard actions: move, take your plate, wash your plate, search for a clue, use ability, ingredient, stash, cook, chop. Wizard spells, Sage's Wisdom. The wizard spells are bad things. The Sage's Wisdoms are the counters of that. Wizard spells are just the events that happen depending on the round counter. But then the Sage's Wisdoms are like the counters of those to help you, mitigate them, if you will. But it's going to take your action on the turn-by-turn basis. Your abilities that I mentioned, each character is going to have one of these asymmetric abilities, and you refresh them in those same rounds that the wizard's ones go as well. Then this is the tricky thing that you don't really see on the page itself, is the cauldron. The cauldron occupies cells according to this, and it moves around, and it bumps stuff, and it can change where things are in the kitchen itself. But I don't really know how it does that. It just moves. So that'd be the only thing that I just am really kind of not sure on with this. I feel like I'm just taking crazy pills and missing something as a whole. Again, side quests with the Shards of Truth. But when you're going down here, did you see the cauldron moving at all? I didn't see that as a mechanic at all on the page. So playthrough and a review from them, otherwise a playthrough is probably the most helpful thing as a whole. It's doing really well for something that I never heard of before this, but give it a look, I guess. Kind of gives me like a Roomba vibe. Anyway, now speaking of rule books that leave a little bit to be desired, we have Disney Afternoon Rewind. When I was a kid, all the stuff that I used to watch, and it's giving it to us in a board game form with a Marvel United style vibe, because all you basically have are 3 different types of actions: move, challenge, and a special ability. I'm not really sure how to figure this one out. The rule book is on the page. It tells you, okay, the main mechanistic mechanic that they are doing with this mechanistic mechanic. That's a great sentence, Chris. This is why I'm only at where I'm at on this channel, because I'm an idiot. But what I'm saying with this is that you're playing down one of the inspiration cards. These inspiration cards have inspiration tokens. Then you're using actions. Actions require inspiration tokens. Inspiration tokens can be stored for future turns on cards that are not currently played. And so that is kind of how you're allocating future turns as you take 2 actions on a single turn that I mentioned. Now, the special abilities, it says right here, can be epic challenges, reactions, or unique actions. That's okay. I understand that. You have 6 different unique games. There's going to be some unlocks, and there's unique win conditions in all of these that you're going to be mixing and matching. And I guess you can just kind of pick and choose, even from multiple episodes, which ones you want to use. I guess I wonder as well with these unlocks, they say that these unlocks won't be in the retail editions of these games. So Kickstarter exclusive there, with a whole lot of Kickstarter exclusive unlocks. So if you're going to bag on CMON, you should be bagging on Maestro Media currently here, because this is FOMO, right? Now, I hate the fact that you bundled these in the way that you did, because personally speaking, I would probably go DuckTales, Chippendale, and Darkwing Duck, or even DuckTales, Darkwing Duck for sure. Those, no doubt whatsoever. The other 4, you could take it or leave it, but I guess I'd probably go Gargoyles is the one I probably have the most attachment to. But definitely DuckTales and Darkwing Duck first and foremost. Anyway, you're getting extra episodes to go along with it. I love the standees. I love that aspect of things. And the other thing you have to note, though, is that all of these are not quite the same. 20 dual-sided characters in this one, 18 only in this one, because some of these individual box sets, even for example, don't have the same amount. This has 7 character cards. Goof Troop only has 6. Chip and Dale has 7. So you can start to see a little bit of what the, slight differences are going to be there. And then you also, if you're paying close attention to the graphics here, going to have a heavy dice element that you're going to be having to do, because you've taken the CMON Eric Lang exploder dice and made them your own in terms of the success, which is like that little paw thing. The X is the failure, the shield is the shield, and the exclamation point is the exploder dice. So Goof Troop, though, let's talk about this. It gives you this random thing about your yard spotless, keeping your clippings, cans, and chaos over the fence. That doesn't, 1, sound fun, and 2, that doesn't give me any difference on how this win condition mechanic is going to be different from DuckTales here, when you tell me that I have to keep the dime safe and the other team tries to snatch it. So, I mean, at least that seems like head-to-head. This just seems toss it over the fence. I guess I want to see, what is the actual mechanistic difference, because this otherwise appears the same. One team tries to get something, the other team tries to stop them. I love Darkwing Duck. I think this one is the most appealing one to me. What's the story behind this one, though? Heroes, action, chaos, who rules the night? No idea what that means. So 6 worlds, 6 games. Anything's exclusive, maybe available later. Free content here, though. Let's take a look at this. Characters. So you're getting character unlocks, which, man, some of these are cool characters, not just your run-of-the-mill, like the ones that you want in there in the first place, like Bushroot. Okay, Webby. We watched the new DuckTales. It's actually pretty good for all things considered. Custom dice, don't care about that. Custom dice, custom dice, custom dice. The unlocks. Wait. Okay, no. Okay. These are individual. So you can individualize them if you want, which is great. But the choose 3 is $75, so that's not insignificant packing-wise. I hate that, though. That's $15 difference. That incentivizes FOMO in a completely different way. Because I would do DuckTales and Darkwing, which, again, I will take my own advice here, that buying more to save more is actually still spending more. So if I only want Darkwing and DuckTales, that's still only going to be $60 out of the $75, so I will be saving the cost of shipping. It reminds me of the CMON cluster when they did their animation collection situation, where I just ended up getting Scooby-Doo, even though it was cheaper to get all 3. Happy Camper, I think that game has not been terribly well received when I looked at it in Board Game Geek years ago, because again, obviously huge DuckTales and Duck fan in general. So you draft and you play cards to complete scenarios. Like, I think these special abilities and this dice rolling, me, like Marvel United, this is my vibe, right? This is my thing. But I can't tell what's going on here. And again, when you read through this rule book, it's fine. It gives you all of the stuff that I've just shown you. The types of inspiration that you're having, the character cards that are going to give you all of these different abilities with the ranges and the skills and, the inspiration tokens that you're gaining from them and that you can keep on. But I just don't know the flow of things, which is going to make me watch a video down here. But I worry that, is that me? Holy wow, balls, Batman. They didn't even contact me to let me know they were using that. I emailed them like a couple weeks ago just to see, but that would have been nice to know that you're using my video on this page. Because, again, I want to see what's going on with this, but I've only got random Essen stuff to show me. I guess I'm going to watch the Essen video or the Dice Tower video, which isn't really even from Dice Tower. So I guess they maybe played it at Essen, but I'm interested because I think you've got good design pedigree. But I want to see some of this flow because, again, I like the rule book here. It's very straightforward. It gives me those Marvel United vibes, but it's very take that too, because you can actually scare away someone on the other team. So like they get exhausted and they drop their tokens and, again, things like that I want to see. So I don't do Tabletop Simulator, but I am super intrigued by this, and I may having to watch this video before this campaign ends. So remind me. Okay, we'll come back to it. By the way, Maestro, give me a call, especially if you're going to use my video. Another 100,000, 159,000 here for Doom. And truth be told, I'm hoping to have a video out on this sometime during the campaign because the game got to me like 2 days before this campaign launched. So I have not even had a chance to crack it open to really give it a look in terms of how I'm going to feel about it as a 2-player head-to-head skirmish style, mimicking the classic video game, but definitely not going to do the first-person shooter thing. So what you've got going on here, though, in this miniature but standy available option-sided dice combat-driven game, depending on the caliber of your weapon, is you've got the good guys, the Doom guy, slowly upgrading the weapons and the availability of said weapons and the caliber of them and the damage of them, while the demon hordes are summoning more monsters and stronger monsters in order to win. You have 4 different maps available to you. You are taking 6 different turns on a round. On a round, though, the Doom guy has 1 activation that has 2 actions on their turn. Consequently, the demon side of things gets 3 activations. So you're going back and forth in the round. That's when you start upgrading. So they're going old school Doom graphics here. This 29-page rulebook gives you a little bit better overview. You can see these are the slots for weapons, the health, the speed, how far it's moving along the hexagonal grid, and any special rules or tempo special abilities that are going along with the characters. Now, if we scroll down here to the demons, again, very similar special abilities. The rules, their sort of health and speed, as you can see, considerably different than the Doom guy there, as 12 health and 6 speed, as opposed to 4 health, 2 strength, and 4 speed. And as well, they're targeting for their abilities in addition. Now, once we get set up, you have a Doom guy with 2 different variants, a respawn token going up against potentially the beginning of the game 3 fodder demons. Their setup in the first round is different than the setup in the second 2 rounds, where you use a different sized board depending on who won or lost chooses which side and which board to use. You've got significant amount of different types of terrain, and you're deploying your characters on the board as you go. The rip and tear phase, though, is where the majority of the game, in turns where you get your 6 turns and your activations that I mentioned, is going to happen. So this is where the other divisive element, going back to the round and board situation, comes from, is that anytime you do damage, you get blood equal to the damage suffered. That's your victory points, and that's determining who wins the round. Yeah, you have some free actions to go along with that. You're tallying the blood, and if you haven't been declared overall the winner, then you get 3 arsenal tokens, it says right here, to upgrade your forces. But you don't have to use them. You can actually store them for later rounds. Again, weapons, upgrades, or just swapping demons out for more demons. It talks about the move actions, the hexes and the terrains, the attack actions. Holy cow. And that's why the Doom guy only needs 1 guy on the board, because that's a freaking metric ton of area that you're going to be blasting through in that way with a line of sight, as well as friendly fire is totally applicable. Tempo is going to be sort of your special ability tokens that you can use by gaining the tokens in the first place, and how you kill units here as a whole. And they give you a whole bunch of variant modes down here at the bottom, special effects of telling you how to use this terminology, and then a little bit more of the game flow reference there. So then the other buried the lead portion of things at the very end there is you have to win 2 of the 3 rounds. So you win 1 of the rounds, you need to then give the other person the option for what board to use the next round. Then subsequently, if they win that round, then you play a sudden death 3rd round to see who is the ultimate champion. So skirmish level with, well, 3 rounds or 3 mini games as a whole. But that's Doom. Is it going to attract? I mean, this is very much like Mass Effect to me. And it's going to be very interesting to see if it is more than just a slug him out or a Doom guy really taking him out from afar, and how many of these different, well, options I'm going to be able to utilize in a single game. I actually don't remember which one I have, if I have Doom or if I have Doom the Dark Ages. I think I have the regular Doom one. So we'll see. I'll probably have something out here in the next week or 2 before the campaign ends. but it's expensive if you want all the plastic to go along with it. Holy cow, that's a lot of plastic. And for holy $440. All the upgrades right now are deluxeifications. Most of the stretch goals are deluxeifications, but if you go down here, we have alternate sculpts, upgrades for tokens, but then a Barons of Hell expansion to go with just the 1993 one. Interesting. Extra maps. No, premium finish to the maps, and then a Spider Mastermind. Is that only going to be available? Okay, well, we got some exclusive stuff here as well. That's 2 in a row. So there you go from Modipus. And I would assume, since they only have really one video down here that was covering this, and this is a preview content from these folks, you'll see a little bit more content coming out soon as well, because I think a lot of other people got it right before the campaign, just like I did. Next up, we're talking from Arcada Studio, Legends of the Sea, which is sort of like a cooperative pirate-faring captain sonar, if you will, as you take on unique asymmetric crew members trying to navigate this ship with real-time simultaneous play in terms of trying to maneuver your ship, protect the hold as well as the helm, and destroy other enemy ships as you go through scenarios with an ab-driven situation, trying to outmaneuver as well as cannonball them while still surviving. There's a Goblins Raid extra expansion. If you're paying close attention to the graphic over here, you can upgrade it with miniatures and use the app to give you real-time management. So that's kind of what you've got going on, is you get one movement in terms of your character moving around the areas of this ship, taking an action in those areas, and you also get a help action to help someone else aid in their action in the first place, because a lot of this is going to be dice dependent as you maneuver, as you fire, and as you mitigate. You're going to be collecting barrels that come up to the surface after you destroy enemy ships that are trying to sink you in order to upgrade your ship and survive. But you can take damage. The helm and the hold, as I previously mentioned, are the two main areas that you have to protect, because if either of one of those gets destroyed, you lose the scenario. Obviously, other scenario driven objectives are going to get into play as well, and the straight up regular version and upgrade the hell out of it if you so choose going forward. The problem is, again, how do you play this game? It's more of a secondary rather than a focus, because it's this far down on the page. Movement, like I said, maneuver your ship and then choose which maneuver you want to take. Inflict damage, but also take damage in the form of floods, cracks, and fires on your ship. That's going to give you not only ways to repair it to get treasure, but also deal with it on a pandemic style vibe as you go across. The dice rolling that I mentioned as well with the cannons, and helping your crew, but also informing them what you're doing as you upgrade. So that's kind of it. And these guys are like the no rolls barred of French, it looks like. So give their gameplay a look if you speak French and can understand it, or you want to use YouTube's no automated AI subs or dubs, if you will. Not subs. I think it's dubbed, actually. The last time I viewed it randomly the other day without knowing it. But that's Legends of the Sea. Now, Grifoni Kickstarter. But Ludus Magnus, surprisingly, with some very interesting meeples to go along with this. Blades for Hire, taking a narrative spin to the worker placement vibe in somehow less than 60 minutes. That's a little crazy when you've got that much stuff going on the table. So what you're doing is you're playing this worker placement game over 3 narrative-driven acts, recruiting and equipping mercenaries, doing tasks in order to get points, and influencing the power, but also a campaign as further ramifications and effects as you go along. Now, Grifoni in 5 minutes right there. We'll get back to that, but the overview is you're placing these workers in the camp, taking the actions that are provided, influencing the balance of the camp in the first place, and then also being able to buy equipment, hire mercenaries, and get the resources that you need, managing your wagon as you move along, equipping your mercenaries, and choosing which missions that you want to take. Deluxeified, that's the reason you're getting it, as well as an already included expansion, but it says down here, I think you had to be pre-following. Yeah, right? So the stretch goals box, and the difference here is the deluxifications, and this is the 3 expansions to go along with it. Only one of them has been revealed at the time of me filming this, and so you can kind of see what we've got going on down here, but you also have additional little content boxes that give you additional little meeples that you can be as your workers, as well as additional little cards to give more variety. Here are the other things that have been yet to be revealed in terms of the expansion, and they give you again a little bit of overview of that, a few social stretch goals, and a few other daily unlocks down here in terms of gameplay content. So the only way that you're really going to get a understanding of this is to watch this video. So having watched a little bit of the video now, what's essentially going on, again, this would be very useful information on the page, is that your first phase is that you're placing your 3 squires down into these areas. Then you subsequently resolve all 8 of these different camp locations in a specific order, gathering your resources, hiring your mercenaries, and basically getting ready to do these missions. But the thing you need to know is that when you're managing this wagon, if you're paying close attention to this GIF here, you can see that a couple of these spaces actually have wheels on them. And so what that means is if you cover the wheels, you can't go as far. And so when you take these missions, the missions are going to be distance dependent as well as the mercenaries in terms of what you're needing. So you're going to have to be very careful to allocate accordingly. The other aspect is that you actually put the equipment cards under the mercenaries here, and then you put the puzzle pieces into your wagon in order to use them. The other tricky aspect is not only do you have 6 different types of mercenaries, but you actually have victory points that are going to be based off of some of this as well in the end game scoring, because at the beginning of the game, which they don't show here at all, you get a secret objective in addition. So that's a little bit more of what you've got going on, but the narrative component is another action that you can take from one of those 8 different camps in order to advance the events that are going to come up as you're going along for some of those end game scoring that I just mentioned and alluded to right there. So that's it. You can pay a lot for it, you can pay a little for it, or you can kind of see where it comes out in a couple of years. Grifoni from Ludus Magnus. Now we got Dicey Devices Mad Ambition, $34,000, with a little bit of dice, and we'll talk about that, but you are a mad scientist trying to incapacitate all the other mad scientists in order to win the game through the use of set collection in order to build your death ray faster and to shoot it at other people. The more sets that you have, the stronger your death ray is, the more you can take out other people. If you are incapacitated, though, you aren't out of the game. You can revive through one of 2 different methods in order to get back in and continue on, even though you can still do some of your actions normally. So the first phase of things is that revive action, and that revive action is either by spending 6 scrap or by rolling dice in the form of a pair. And so that is going to be the first way that you get back in. And then what you're doing is you're using dice in order to activate your tableau as you build a set collection style of things, using those numbers to activate all of the spaces to its left, as you can see here it go along, depending on the number of the dice that corresponds to this. The set collections that I was referring to are the colors of these pieces and cards in the middle that either correspond to 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, or 4 of a different kind. And so the number of sets that you have is going to be dependent on how many cards that you have available to you as you collect these resources, use these cards, and activate more sectors and scraps and modules to then deploy your robots as an area control element of things. Upgrade your death ray, as you saw here, revive if you can, and then, well, be the last one standing, have everyone else incapacitated and knocked out. So that's what you got going on, and at this time around, Dicey Devices is funded. I like this aesthetic, actually. I'm a fan of this. So let's see. Pledge $59, $69 with the clone pack, and lunchbox special with a tin is going to $88 in addition. Clone pack gives you more meeples and a special job with a special power. Okay, there you go. A few videos covering this from the first time and the second time around here, and that's what you got going on. So give that a look if that looks like your dice. Now we have Pop Art, which has $19,000. It's taking the card crafting to a new vibe, which I just saw another game that I was looking at that's doing card crafting as well recently. But what you've got going on here is you just pass and draft. So you take a background as well as an art card to create special scoring conditions and doing the castle combo thing and creating a 3x3 grid. So once you have a grid created, then you score all your points and see who has the most. After you take your individual card and background from your hand, though, you draw new ones and then pass them to the left, rinse and repeat, like I said, until you've got your 3x3 grid there. If you want some goal cards, you can mix it up and make the puzzles to either collaborate or compete with the opponents on either side of you. That is the game. A few preview videos here as well to talk about, a few add-ons if you like the previous stuff from Road to Infamy, and that's what we got going on here. A nice little game in that sense, and it'll cost you $25 to get it right now. So that is why they're doing well. That's it. That's the roundup this week. Hopefully I'll get that news video done. I need to film some more of the stuff that came out since I filmed the first parts, and then like filmed the later parts, and then filming now the parts that have come out since, but then deleting the parts that we're going to be talking about stuff that's already happened, like some of the crowdfunding launches when I filmed at the beginning of September, beginning of October. That's how my day's going. And then I will hopefully have at least 1 or 2 video reviews out as well this week. I'm not sure what I really have in store. I've got a couple that I need to edit, and then I don't think I have anything that has to come out this week as well, but I've got 1 or 2 crowdfundings, like I said, with Doom going to be coming out in the near future. I actually just got in the mail as well the Red Raven game, Song of Silveranth, and so I'm going to be having a video at least sometime during the campaign for that one. The one I'm hoping to get out this week as well is Cretaceous Rails, and then also I have the copy of the retail release of Mind Clash for Emberheart here. So those are near the top of the list right now to get out in some way, shape, or form. But that's kind of what I got going on, and that's kind of where things are at. And I've been doing a bunch of random shorts because I think those are funny and fun to do, and just whatever. So you get what you get. Okay, peace out. Stay classy. Have a great freaking fantastic day. Thanks for watching. Sub if you want.